Welcome back to What Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is a T95, the Tier 9 American turretless tank destroyer. It's located on the east spawn of Studzianki and it's under the command of Andromeda. And he's entered this battle late, and yes, I'm afraid his teammates have already deployed, or mostly. And some of them are up at the factory already, and the rest are headed to the south. Okay, T95, otherwise known as the Doom Turtle. It's a really heavyweight tank destroyer. So it's got a huge 155mm gun, which will do 750 alpha, penetrating 276mm of armor with standard ammo, and 320 with the premium. But obviously, those premium rounds do cost. And with the HE rounds, he can do 950 alpha if he can penetrate 90mm of armor. This tank used to have a fearsome reputation of being virtually impossible to kill, mainly because of the armor and the fact that it's got two sets of tracks. Yep, it's very difficult to kill, but fairly easy to immobilize if you can put a shell through one of those tracks, and if you can get behind it, you can put a shell into those big fuel tanks at the back, or you can puncture the engine bay through the side. But the only other place you can penetrate is through the mantlet, which is directly underneath the, or not through the mantlet, directly underneath the mantlet is a lower plate which is fairly easy to pen if you've got enough penetration. Well, he's made his way down to the church, and there's a T-34 blocking the way at the moment, and some enemy across the dip. Oh, he's been spotted. There's an enemy off to his left, a Wizzy 111 Model 14. It's a tier 10 game, but there are tier 8 and 9 tanks in it. Obviously, the T-34 is a tier 8, but he's got a 120mm gun. And it looks like Andromeda's about to face off against some opposition, some heavy tanks who are lined up behind those houses, and he's being bonked at the moment by a Skoda T50. Fires around at the ISM, who manages to bonk him as well. Now he ought to be moving about a bit. Oh, the ISM fired one in. Now I suspect that one went through the cupola, which is one of the weak spots, and the Skoda is tracking us at the moment. He's tracked us twice. He's got 3 shots in his magazine, so he's now reloading. Meanwhile, our tracks are fixed. And Andromeda, I think is... well, no, I'm not sure that went into the ISM. The trouble is that, yeah, he's got somebody behind him, our own ISM, who wants to get a shot. Yes, you can see the shot went right through the cupola. It's a weak spot. It's the only weak spot I didn't mention, actually, out of that previous list. He's rather blocking this passageway. Some of his teammates want to get through and try and shoot at the enemy. But what Andromeda is doing is blocking the enemy from making any further advance, because that big 155mm gun is pretty painful. There's the enemy's T95. He's going to go for the lower plate. And, oh, he connects, but a low roll, 702. He's blocked 2,490. Now it's 2,800. And that was an APCR round from an IS-3. Unfortunately, the ISM got another penetrating shot. So he's down to 56% of his health. Needs to conserve it. Either that will take that ISM out of the game. There he is. Oh, doesn't get that one in either. Almost reloaded. 15-second reload. So long. That'll just hit the tracks. Here comes the Centurion. And he takes a big hit there. 820. And Arty's decided to stun him. T95 again. And one through the lower plate. 685. He's now one shot. And he's bounced off us again. And another one bounces. The IS-3. Next target. And there's a nice punch a hole through his tank now. 248 hit points off that one. And they're still bouncing rounds. 5.5k blocked. The IS-3 is a one shot now. I have the feeling I know what Andromeda is doing here. He is literally acting as a roadblock. He's stopping the enemy moving any further in the south, simply by virtue of the fact if they come out from around those side of those buildings, he's going to put a whopping great hole in them. 2.4k of damage done so far. That's another one. The ISM must be on that corner. He's just checking to see was any of his teammates trying to get through the gap. I'm sure they probably do want to get through the gap actually, but they could go round. There's nothing to stop them from going around. Okay, he's pulling back to allow them access. Fires a round in. Oh, the IS-3A appears at that moment. But he bounces another round. And another. So he must be in reload now. And it looks like the enemy Centurion 7-1 made a very bad move and got taken out of the game by our Centurion 7-1. I think there's a big enough gap there for his teammates to go through if they want to. But Andromeda's just going to hold this corner for the meanwhile. Stop the enemy from coming through the gap. And the T-34's decided he's going to go into the dip. I'm not sure that's a good idea. Oh, he's been hit twice. Third time. And wiped out. Oh dear. No, it wasn't a good move. He was killed by the Wizzy 111 Model 14 who happened to be in the gap. In the ditch. There's the IS-3A. Still got most of his health actually, funnily enough. ISM. Ooh, that was painful. The ISM, he's back in his garage. Big mistake. He just got too close to the bushes, spotted. And the moment he was spotted, Andromeda slotted him. Well, they've been consistently about 2 tanks down so far in the game. And there's still 2 tanks down. But the enemy's not making any progress. They're not moving up on this side. There's the TS5. We're going to get a shot on him. We need to move forward in order to do so. Lower plate. Easily punches through. More than enough penetration to go straight through the armor on the TS5. Oh! And the Doom Turtle on the enemy team fired around in. Oh no, that was a bit of a snapshot back. And we just got hit by the Arty. So we can guess where he is. And we've been stunned. I don't think the enemy T95 driver knows how to actually get the shots through. Now the one thing I would say is that Andromeda is using a lot of premium ammo. He started off this game I think with 17 rounds and he's expended all but 4 of those. So he's going to have a heavy cost at the end of the game. The scores are now equal and it looks like we're doing quite well up in the north of the map near the factory. We've got 2 Object 277s fighting it out with one of the enemy. And oh, there's the Skoda T50. No shot on him though. And the TS5 just got one into our tracks. And he's just blown another one. That was an HE round, I think. Yep. HE is not going to do a whole lot against this tank, except maybe knock the tracks off and very minor damage. Of course, the T95 round of HE could do considerable damage depending on the tank it actually hits. If he was to hit that Skoda with an HE round, I think he'd really feel it. The shell would probably punch straight through the armor on the T50. He's waiting for the TS5 to come into view. We're 1 up on the enemy now. They've lost the factory to us and it looks like they're about to lose their Arty. Yep. Our Arty killed their Arty. That's good news. Andromeda's decided to move, but he's found the Wizzy 111 Model 14 off to the side and he's gone. So 2 kills now. And they're still bouncing rounds. Oh, the Gorilla finally managed to put a round through him and he's left him on only 119 hit points, so now he is in trouble. That's a lot of damage. Where did the round go through? Side? Yeah, it went through the side. Okay, but what we got in front of us? 2 tanks are going to have difficulty trying to penetrate. He doesn't want to give his side to either of those 2 tanks. And the TS5 puts one into his tracks. And that's the minute warning. My God, the time has gone quickly. It looks like this is going to be a draw. Okay, it's loaded. The IS-3A is down. Good shot, 706. But there's only... oh, there's not going to be enough time for another shot, I think. And looks like the TS5 is now unspotted, so is he going to try a blind shot? And that's it. Only 3 enemies left, but they haven't got enough time. They've run out of time. And that's it, the game's over. Let's have a look at the end of battle stats. And it's a second-class tank for Andromeda in the T95. He managed to get a shell-proof and a fire for effect out of that game, and he also picked up a Spartan for blocking a shot when he had less than 10% of his hit points left, a cool-headed for bouncing at least 10 ricochets, non-penetrating shots in a row from the enemy, and a steel wall for blocking the most damage in the game overall. His win rate for that game was 4,163. Let's have a look at team score. We can see on damage wise, he did do the most damage in the game, 4,537 hit points of damage, but no high caliber. He also managed to get, well, we can see the next highest damage is the TS5 on the enemy team with 3,941 hit points of damage. And after that, the Rheinmetall Borsig Waffenträger on his team got 3,861 and a tank sniper. When it came to kills, though, there was 4 tanks on his team managed to get 2 kills, including Andromeda, the T100 LT, the Lorraine 155-51, and the Centurion 7-1. On the enemy team, there was only 2 tanks that managed to get more than 1 kill, the Skoda T50 and the Wizzy 111 Model 14. He picked up a Patrol GC, the TS5 got a Spartan. And if we look at base XP, it was actually the Borsig who managed to do the best with 679 base experience points, 618 went to Andromeda, and 522 went to the Lorraine 155-51. The enemy, they have 545 base experience points for their TS5, 539 for that Wizzy 111 Model 14, who did quite well really, considering he was in the dip for most of the game and had to come out of the dip to shoot at guys who made their way forward to the dip. And their Arty, the GW did 506 base experience points. He fired 15 shots in the game, got 12 direct hits, 7 penetrations, and 1 splash. Damage of 4,537 hit points, of which 1,397 were at more than 300 meters. He received 28 hits during that game. 3 were penetrations, 25 non-penetrations, and 3 hits by way of splash damage. Block damage of 8,260 hit points in total. Damaged 7 of the enemy, killed 2, and did 1,692 hit points of damage assistance. On a premium count, he earned 58,778 credits, got 5,588 for courageous resistance, that's for getting an epic medal in a losing or a drawn game. Total came out to 64,365 credits, and after repair and ammunition resupply, and that's the kicker, yes, he did use a lot of premium ammo, he ended up with a small loss of 19,726 credits. He received 1 bond for getting the steel wall, and 927 XP for the game, 564 for courageous resistance, took away 1,491 altogether. So yes, as he said, combined damage and block and spot was 15k in total, but unfortunately it was a drawn game. Now my theory is that it was a drawn game mainly because he was blocking down in the south. The guys up in the north did actually manage to break through. They conquered the factory, they conquered the heights above the factory, and they were making their way into the enemy base area at the point at which the game ended. But I think the problem really was that not enough people were making their way into the dip to force the enemy to expose themselves so Andromeda could get some clean shots on them and get the kills. So partially I think that was down to the fact that Andromeda was blocking one of the most easy routes into the dip. He did allow that T-34 to go through the gap, and look what happened to him. He got wiped out by the Wizzy 111 Model 14. So probably wasn't a great idea to go through that gap, but at least Andromeda was keeping the enemy from crossing the gap themselves, and that's so easy in this game. If you let the guys through the dip and cross the dip, then usually they can push forward and get around the back of the church and make you vacate that area. And Andromeda, well, I think he could have gone into the dip himself. With the help of some of the other teammates, if he communicated that to them, they could have gone into the dip, finished off the Wizzy 1 Model 14 and any enemy tanks that were in the dip, and then come out the other side just as their team were pushing through from the factory to end the game. So, yeah, ended up as a draw, could have been a win, but it was still a good score. Win 8 is very high, 4,163. You can't knock that. That is very good. So if you enjoyed that replay, please give this video a like and do subscribe to our channel. Hit that notification button. We are a small channel. We have put out a huge amount of content. We're closing in on 5,000 videos, which is far more than most of the main channels have done, considering they've been around for something like 8 to 9 years. And we've only been around for 2.5 years. But the reason we've put so much content out is because we get a lot of requests. We like to provide those requests. We don't like to turn people down. We will try and do most of the videos we can do if they're good enough, and that keeps people happy, because then at least they get their video on YouTube and they can say, well, I've got my moment for all history, for all time. I can play that video anytime I like, whereas I might not be able to do it if Wargaming keeps changing the client. So yes, it does make good sense to actually have your video available, and so anyone can watch it. If you enjoyed this replay, that's great. Thanks very much indeed for watching.